going to die. Somebody puts that as a thing. No one's going to die.
No. This is a friendly show, George. George, this is all about ospreys and freedom and, just screaming like bloody murder when we're mad, though. I mean, there is a little bit of real emotion behind this show, and I don't want to hide that. But no, it's not about bloody murder. That's kind of
no. John, I'm sorry, caught us before the show here with Addy Eds and George Webb. That somebody wrote, Addy's going off to Atlanta to stay with the people he was with before, and since then he was there. They've shot up their house, so he's going back to the house now that we know that it's a drive-by target. And somebody put the comment down, nobody's going to die. And I'm like, okay, well, tell that to task force, I mean, so it is a risky business, so we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, my comment was way off base.
No. So, I no, you meant in this context here, and I agree.
Yeah, I was trying to open the show on a lighter note, but it is what it is, and we have to recognize, like the song says, good friends we've had, good friends we've lost along the way.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, John, thank you for welcoming us to your show again. This is great. I feel like a VIP here on the island.
Thank you, John.
Oh, well, I was going to talk about the mafia this morning, but I'd a lot rather talk about what's on you guys' minds. But just to catch everybody up, I've been starting a little series on my channel, and you can find it at screamingospreys.com. It's I'm going through the EIR, the Executive Intelligence Review, over at larouchepub.com, and finding ones that I think are really helpful and instructive and bring us up to date on some things that I've been vague on all my life. And so this would have been the third one in this series. I will still do it. It's called Dope Inc. and the Legalized Gambling Business. So, and the theme of that is that from the Meyer Lansky days, he corporatized everything, and one of the great ways that they are able to launder the dope money is, of course, through gambling, as George has explained to me as we went up to National Harbor and visited the gambling resort there. So that was my theme for this morning, and I'd rather hear what you guys have been working on.
Well, just before I jump in front of Addy, they have great stuff. LaRouche Pack, the EIRs, especially the Perm Index, and go back to Lewis Bloomfield and the OSS and how they set up the drug traffic in Canada before they moved it into the United States with the Hellawell plan. It's great stuff. So I just want to put in a plug for them.
Wait for Dave Underdown to magically appear in this room.
Yeah, he's the expert. Dave's read everything backwards and forwards, and there's so many people who aren't out there in front of the camera that have contributed. There's just too many to mention. We just want to keep that going. We're going to do a charrette here, 5th through the 10th. We're back on. We negotiated and we got a deal. We were just. I had to get it down to 3 bills. I can't pay more than
I thought it was off, George. This is great news.
It was off, and then Trump tweeted out again, come to D.C. on the 6th, the big mega march. Come to on the 5th, actually, because if you want to enjoy the Senate celebration, hopefully we'll win at least one of those seats in Georgia, and then be here through the 10th. And then we're going to take a whole bunch of people south after that. So whoever wants to go south, we're going to do something down south as well for the people more toward Florida.
Sounds great. Sweet sunny South. I mean, what could sound better at this time of year from somebody here in the middle of the East Coast? We're facing some chilly, it's chilly weather all the time, but it is amazing that I still have pansies that are blooming out in the front yard, and made a little dusting of snow on them the other day, but they've survived so far, so we shall see.
Well, Eddie, you're going to Georgia to stay with the family that got shot up.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and thank you, John, for having me on the McDuff channel again. It's quite an honor going to Atlantistan, back into the lion's den, so to speak. And going to follow up on the drive-by shooting on the Connors household. And for those that didn't hear, this happened on Christmas Day at around 11:15 p.m. So at the end of the day, this happened. There were children in the house as well. 5 shots total, and that was a follow-up fact that I didn't include in my initial report because I just wanted to get it out there. But they heard 5 shots total. I think only 4 bullet holes. But again, that's part of the reason of why I'm going back to Atlanta, is to not only clarify on ballistic evidence and what else happened, but to cement the fact that this did happen, because there's a small minority of doubters who don't believe that this actually did happen. So we're going to try to do possibly a small reenactment, or at least show the street and the camera angle as well of the shooter, just so people can compare and decide for themselves what actually went down.
And my only comment, John, I don't know how you feel about this, but here's a whistleblower, an election whistleblower. She's quite active in the community in Atlanta, and it's witness intimidation. I mean, I don't know what could be more witness intimidation than shooting gunshots brazenly into somebody's house. And this is after she was been on our shows three. Toto doesn't like it. 3 or 4 times. She'd done interviews, and so we just got to get this out to Trump. Yesterday we went up to Washington to take this directly to the gate of the White House. That we couldn't get any farther, but we if Trump retweets out this video, which you can see the muzzle flashes and everything, and say this is how anybody who speaks up about the election in Atlanta is getting treated, I just think it would be huge, and it would top the national story. For sure. I mean, that's not even a swing state.
Let me get the metadata down on this, George. You're referring to a video that has muzzle flashes in it, and I was not aware of that. Maybe I haven't seen the one you're talking about. So let's let everybody know how they can look at this, where they can find it, and then I think a lot of people would like to forward it on to the White House, on their tip line or whatever else that you want to do with it. Send it to Mike Flynn. Send it to people that you find to be of the sort that would stand up against this type of intimidation. Send it to your local cops and say, look what's going on. But can they get away with that? Yeah. I think there's the idea of citizen journalism can do a lot if people take us up on it and push this on out there. Nobody would I trust more than George Webb to tell me this story needs to go out there. So let's take him up on it. Let's help him out.
Yeah, John, I've shared my screen, and then.
Okay. Let me see if I can get that screen up here. That'll be great.
In the meantime, just let people know this is from the security camera at the house of the Connors.
There's about 8, you'd say, 8 cameras or so that they have.
I don't know how many cameras they have, but this is the best angle they captured of the shooting itself. But you're gonna have to go upright on the. You're gonna have to go portrait view on that, George, just so the viewers can see it.
All right, here we go.
So here we go.
And tell us, narrate this as we start it.
Sure, yeah. So here we go. This is just outside their house. See a car pull up, and you can see 1, 2 very clear muzzle flashes. And if you actually look very, very closely, you might be able to see a third one as well. Amber was saying, we actually spoke to her yesterday when we were in DC, George and myself, and I slowed it down as well. And we got Wes, just for example, in the comments saying that it looks like a Kia Optima, which is another part of this we're looking into as far as what kind of make and model the car is. But we've also determined that there's an intersection that this driver would have had to go through where there is a public security camera that would have captured, hopefully quite clearly, at least the make and model of the car, if not the license plate as well. So putting pressure on the powers that be to look into that recording from this time period probably would have been about 11:10 p.m. or so, just a few minutes before the shooting occurred. As well as the bullet holes there, you can see taken photos from both sides of inside the house and outside the house as well. And this last photo, which should pop up here in a few seconds, actually looks like it's at a different angle than the other photos, which is possibly indicative of a second shooter, although only one drive-by shooter was seen. So that's the gist of it, folks, for those that haven't seen it. And that's on my channel and the Neighborhood News channel as well, if anybody wants to watch it again.
There you
All right, very good, and thanks for sharing that. I had not seen it before, and I agree with you. There's some muzzle flashes going on.
Yeah, and just, I think it's one of those things where if Trump tweeted it out, all of a sudden the upper hand, because, gosh darn it, this Nashville thing looks like a false flag, or at least someone who was coached in for years and radicalized like they do with every other one of Andy McCabe's make crimes. Richard Jewell, their history isn't good here with these bombers, and it seemed like it was done to take the attention of people. Christmas Day, they're unwrapping their gifts, and all of a sudden here's the story, and we wait 5-6 days. It's amazing how much evidence they turn out when they want to push the story of a white supremacist. We're getting body cameras, we're getting all sorts of witnesses, we're getting all sorts of camera shots, wall-to-wall coverage. But here's a person testifying in Georgia about the election fraud, and her house is getting shot up. This was a Black Lives Matter house. We would have helicopter crews circling her house right now, trying to get in to interview her. They would be doing, Wolf Blitzer would be doing cut-ins every 5 minutes. You'd have Donnie O'Sullivan, offering to cut the grass there on weekends just so that he could live with the family. So, it's just one of those, it's one of those double standards again. You just think it's like they'll pour it on for their story, their false narrative, but when you come to them with a true story, dead silence,
Norman Smith's with us this morning. Thanks, Norman, for the super chat. He says, we have to break through this electronic Berlin Wall.
I like it.
Puts it pretty well. I mean, sounds like maybe a song might come out of that, the electronic Berlin Wall.
I was talking to Norman this morning, and I remember when I was in Berlin, going down, I took the tour boat down the Spree there, and they kept playing that song with John F. Kennedy, where he says, "Ich bin ein Berliner," They've kept playing it over and over in the song. I can't remember what the name of the song, but we were talking about McDuff today, and we thought Ich bin ein Berliner should be, just great quotes from Kennedy in the background of the song. Just to remind everybody that he was Kennedy's man to smash the CIA.
I am a Berliner. That was pretty good JFK voice the first time there, George. You did.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I was going to say that was some really nice Boston German.
Yeah, Boston German. Well, Kennedy, as a matter of fact, after he said that, he said, "I thank Mr. Peters for translating my German." Yeah, so.
Mr. Peters.
Mr. Peters. Yeah, so we've been rewriting the book, John, of your dad. And putting in a lot more. This book's going to be like an encyclopedia with all the documents and photographs.
Yeah, the photographs, I think, which George has been kind of focusing on. I've been more editing the words, but a lot of great photos that weren't in the first edition, which I think will really cement for people just how much of a player John's dad was in this world. And why they feared his knowledge, I think, why they feared what he knew. Pictures of him with J. Edgar Hoover, for example, and John was showing me in this Humble Heroes book, that I believe John mentioned on the last show we did, pictures of McDuff as well in there multiple times, and one even with MacArthur as well, correct? Or was that in the Humble Heroes book, or was that did you find that online?
No, that's something that I found online. I can still remember how shocked I was when it was about 5 or 6 years ago now. My wife will remember. And I had always looked for the photographs, and there's a number of photographs shot by the Navy photographers, of course, on the ship. They had a ship's photographer, and you find those. But I had no idea that there was some shot by Army photographers as well. But of course, MacArthur was not in the Navy. MacArthur was in the Army. So he and General Kinney were standing on the bridge of the USS Nashville, looking at the Leyte Gulf landing, the hugest landing in 20th century history, the one where he's about to splash into the surf and say, I have returned. Well, right before that, they're on the ship, and next to them, to the left of them, is a nice big pair of binoculars, and they're somebody's leaning over looking through those binoculars, and I looked at him, and I just started to realize that was my dad. And it really is. And so that picture just started me on so many amazing discoveries about my dad. And so I'm glad to have found it. And I'm delighted that you guys are putting together some of these pictures that I have to let people see as well as to read about McDuff.
Well, John gave me, and thank you to Peter Duke for giving me a 2 terabyte hard drive with about 700 gigabytes of film that he shot volunteered over 5 different charrettes. But John also gave me 800 gigabytes of photos and videos. And so I was able to piece together a lot of the new annotations from what John gave me. Stuff I think you even forgot, like the kid, there's a little picture of him, McDuff, going into Loomis as like a 3-year-old.
The prep school that the Rockefeller boys went to.
Yeah, maybe he's a little bit older than that, but...
that was me.
Oh, that was you. Oh, I got to take that out. See, this is where citizen journalism beats the regular, because we constantly fact check. This is something Donnie O'Sullivan doesn't do. But you look awfully good in that. I'll change the caption.
Well,
it said Loomis on it, and that's what got me. So
yeah. Well, the story is that when I was maybe 1 or 2 years old, my dad ordered a Loomis sweatshirt for me, and they put that on me, and I think this was my grandfather's doing, to get these pictures so that he could show them back at home that, okay, this kid's going to follow in his father's footsteps and go to Loomis, right? So they had a little football for me, and I'm holding the football like I'm going to throw it. I'm 2 years old, right? And it says Loomis on it, and that's the photo you're talking about. I actually carried that photo up to Loomis when you and I were at Loomis last fall, and I held it up to the camera and said, here I am.
Yeah, that was great. It's just this process of actually living here and being together and doing shows for 2 years here and 2 years before that with you, John, that you get all the information. And the story needs that. It needs that amount of time and effort put into all the digging and cross-referencing. And if you just look at Loomis, and I just remember reading this paragraph, you just retyped it with a whole bunch of footnotes and so forth, but you had de Mohrenschildt there as a teacher at that school. And de Mohrenschildt was a recruiter for the British intelligence. And so he's trying to get Rockefeller, he's trying to make Rockefeller happy with the best candidates he can come up with. And 2 of Rockefeller's kids go there. Don't listen to what the politicians say or the rich people say. Look at what they do, where they send their kids, right? So de Mohrenschildt is one of the teachers there for the 2 Rockefeller kids, and he sends one to Arkansas, the dumb one, I think, to a diamond mine in a place called Hope, and Bill Clinton's born not long after. And then he sends the other one, I think, to I can't remember, to Wyoming, I think, to some uranium mine out there and he gets to know Dick Cheney's dad. But the de Mohrenschild's brother is the guy who houses Lee Harvey Oswald for a company. Schlumberger is the company that's doing the drilling for a South American oil company. He's the president and CEO of a South American oil company. So, people say, well, Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't involved in the Bay of Pigs. Well, yes, he was. We have his name on a requisition for 10 different trucks by 2 CIA operatives on the day JFK was inaugurated. And that's in the book, the annotations in the book. So the question I keep asking is, when did McDuff get the file from Hoover? We have a June 3rd, 1960 memo where he said, watch out for this Oswald guy. He wants to come back from the Soviet Union. This is before Kennedy. And guess who's working for him? McDuff. Are you going to give it to your top Russian guy? Remember, Oswald's coming back from Minsk. Are you going to give it to this is right after the shoot-down. Right after the shoot-down of the U-2, May 1st, May Day. Remember the big May Day parade? Oswald all of a sudden wants to come back. And Hoover, I've got the memo, you'll see it in the book, writes the thing. Hey, keep an eye on this guy. He's calling the State Department, John. He's sending a message to the State Department saying, I want you to make sure you send your file over here. I got a guy here that manages the dossiers for these Russians. If that's not going to, we know it's going to be Division 5 in Washington, D.C. We know it's going to be the Russia desk. That means it's one of 4 guys. And Tom O'Loughlin's one of those 4 guys.
Another de Mohrenschildt connection to JFK is through Jackie as well.
Yeah.
Because Jackie grew up with, they call him Uncle
George.
Uncle George, yeah.
Yeah, not just Uncle George, but she would go there every Sunday for Sunday meeting. And her favorite, I'm not embellishing here, you can listen to Jackie Kennedy say it herself, was bouncing up and down on Uncle George's knee. That's how close Jackie Kennedy was. So was Jackie Kennedy an Oconus lure right from the beginning? Sort of a de Mohrenschildt or some, hey,
Wow.
Well, tell us what, I remember reading into the Bouvier side of that, and a noble, a French nobility type of a guy.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to speculate about it, but it certainly is possible that she was a victim from childhood, George.
Oh, absolutely. De Mohrenschildt, I think, claimed heirs to now white Russian heraldry, like our good friend Golitsyn. And again, McDuff's involved in the Golitsyn case. Not the Golitsyn, he's the fake guy that Angleton brought over. Golanowski, who said he was the white Russian prince.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and I'm not convinced he isn't.
I'm not convinced he isn't either.
I think he might be.
Well, everyone knows you always keep the youngest one. You don't kill off, if you're going to kill off all of Nicholas's family, you're going to keep one, because you may want to use that heir if someday later to go back and claim the Ural Basin, the oil, the Baku.
So Golanowski, this Polish intel operative, claims to be the last Romanov heir, correct?
Correct.
Right.
And again, the only State Department case ever, espionage case ever with the State Department, are McDuff and Skarbek. So you had Bill Taylor on the other week, and he was talking about Nosenko, and he's an expert. He's done all the Pete Bagley and done all the background on Pete Bagley and everything. And I just posted Tommy Lee Jones's movie. It's about a 2-minute clip of a guy. They're sitting there, and they're trying to recruit him into the counterintelligence division, the Russian counterintelligence division. And they're saying, well, you'll be working Russian counterintelligence, and you'll need to be working with this very high-level defector named Nosenko. And Helms is bringing him in, right? And here's this guy, looks like an FBI guy, looks like your dad, when Tommy Lee Jones was young. And they're saying, hey, you're going to be handling this high-level defector as far as the FBI is concerned. Well, I then you gave me 7 pages of closely written stuff about your dad.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said is handling very, very high level Russian defectors. Right in there. I printed it right from that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're close. We don't know for sure if he had Nosenko, but he's buried. When we went out to the graveyard, John, he's buried right next to where Nosenko was held for 2 years, or 4 years, actually. So anyway, there's a lot of McDuff that's yet to find out, but it's so tantalizing. It's so much fun digging into the story.
What George is referring to is the typed pages, the 7 typed pages. These are the pages that I included in the orange notebook that people that have come to the charrettes have gotten a copy of. And the point of the orange notebook was for me to put everything I could possibly stuff into a very short presentation, so that when I met George and Jason, I could, tell them, here's the hot stuff right here. And to date, we haven't mined it thoroughly at all. There's all kinds of connections in there that are still waiting to be made. And so I look forward to spending some time with folks at the next charrette to dig some into that text. What George was reading from was actually written by my dad to summarize his career at the FBI in the standard form application for federal employment that everybody has to fill in. So, because he was leaving the FBI and joining the civil service at the Pentagon. So that is something that he composed, and I swear, George, he composed it in the form of breadcrumbs. This text has got breadcrumbs in it, and I know that you recognize that, don't you?
Let me play this clip for you where I actually reproduce the breadcrumbs.
Oh,
are we still on Switcher?
I can think so. Let's see. No, you need to
reshare my screen.
Reshare your screen there,
okay.
buddy.
Yep. Okay, here we go. Because I think everybody, when they see this, and they see the guy say, "You'll be working in the intelligence division, or in the counterintelligence division." Okay, here we go. Here we go. This is made by Tommy Lee Jones.
He produced it.
Starred in it. I don't know if he produced it or not.
Can you?
There we go.
Big screen it. Can you push the button there to make it full screen?
Oh.
The lower right of the screen.
So this is the movie.
Oh, okay.
Nosenko, KGB.
Okay.
Oh, let me go back.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
CIA. You'll be counterintelligence officer for this division. So this is the movie Yuri Nosenko.
And see right here on the last line. Can you read that last line, Addy?
I have had personal and primary responsibility for handling interviews with the most sensitively placed defector sources.
Right, and then before that, here, I'll just play the rest now.
It's a little known movie. It was made in 1986. It's only available on our old VHS format. But as you can see here, it starred Tommy Lee Jones as the FBI officer who was responsible for bringing Yuri Nosenko to the United States as a defector. And of course, the key information here is that's exactly describes what Tom O'Loughlin, our McDuff, did for the FBI. So I'll play a little bit more of the clip here, and you can see that a movie actually was made about the person who was kept here in Maryland, very close to where McDuff is now buried, Tom O'Loughlin.
KGB. I give you plenty good stuff. I am big defector for you. The setup.
I like to have 2 halves to a puzzle. The lie, when you know it's a lie, can be as revealing as the truth.
And the execution.
He okayed the defection. I just wonder if Helms realizes what he's bringing back.
So we know that our McDuff in Counterintelligence in Division 5 was interviewing people who had information about Lee Harvey Oswald and also information about Jack Ruby. And we know that McDuff worked counterintelligence with Russians, especially Russian defectors. So that's this case. You heard earlier in the clip him talking about this division meaning Division 5, and you would be working counterintelligence.
Question. You telling me you know something about Lee Harvey Oswald?
Sure. And the answers.
Nobody talked to Oswald from KGB. I know this.
The truth, though, lies.
Tell us your name and rank. My name is Yuri Ivanovich Nastenko, and I'm Lieutenant Colonel KGB.
Liar!
Nastenko is a highly skilled and motivated KGB officer.
And of course, Nasenko comes here right after the Kennedy assassination to provide information about Lee Harvey Oswald, and he's imprisoned, here you can see, by James Angleton of the CIA. We don't know if McDuff had access to Nasenko in Maryland here or not during this period, but this is what you're seeing being dramatized.
We have to dispose of this case. Can't release him. The consequences would be devastating.
Are you out of your mind?
You had your chance, you got nowhere. Nothing was conclusive.
What do you want, a telephone call from the Kremlin? Tommy Lee Jones stars in Yuri Nosenko, KGB.
There you go.
Yuri Nosenko, KGB, George. All right. Well, I'm delighted to see you making these connections. It's fascinating. We need to compare that with the two books by David Wise, of course, the Cassidy's Run and I'm sorry,
The Tiger Trap he wrote as well.
Anyway, that when we see a story like that, okay, when we have already read the background that we have, then it seems to me like, wow, this is a fascinating story, putting things together in a way that I hadn't thought of putting them together. I mean, it's in other words, it is on its face, to me, a little bit hard to swallow because of the idea that Nosenko was in the custody of the CIA.
Correct.
And my dad was with the FBI.
Correct.
So I can't imagine the CIA, maybe you can, taking an FBI agent and putting him in the position of interrogating one of their, what they think is a prize. You know, they would have kept that away from the FBI guys. That's my instinct. So
one thing to the opposite of that, and that's a very good objection. But the one thing I have to prove in the opposite is McDuff needs to report up through Sullivan, who runs Division 5, to the Warren Commission, right? Hoover has to put his stamp of approval on it, right, to the Warren Commission.
But by the time of the Warren Commission, my dad's out of there.
But the person who would have interviewed him, Nosenko, at that period of time, Nosenko gets here right at the end of 69, early 64. 63 to 64.
Okay.
So the assassination is the 22nd. They bring him in early 64, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And the Joint Chiefs interviewed him for Sullivan. And your dad's report where he says Ruby and Oswald were not involved.
Okay, George.
Yeah.
All right.
We know your dad does a report.
All right. I'm okay. The explosion is happening. Hang on. Let me drink this in here. Let me take this.
I wanted to add too. I read in forgive me for not remembering the source, but as part of the FBI CIA war, the CIA would basically try to go after the top FBI guys, the FBI agents, to try to bring them over to the CIA side. And because J. Edgar Hoover was the man for most of the 20th century, and they were trying to he's trying to be toppled by many people, both internally and externally within that organization. And the Mark Felt movie is really great, kind of illustrates the momentous impact that Hoover's death had and how everybody was ready for when that happened.
Right.
So let me just make sure this is clear.
Yeah.
What I just understood from George, and I want to share it while it's clear in my mind, is that, yes, my dad was already over at Saxa from April of 1962. Okay? So this event is happening in 1963. So how could it be an FBI agent that's investigating? Well, my dad was at Saxa, but he was at Saxa pursuant to a kind of an understanding that he would be double-hatted with Hoover. So that Hoover may well have been the guy that was still able to say, here, you can use my best guy on the Russians, here he is, and I'll let you use him. And the Joint Chiefs would, of course, said, yeah, sure, we'll learn more from it too, because then they'll share the intelligence product. So it makes a lot of sense, except for still, I just don't think the CIA is going to let an FBI guy come in and interrogate one of their prize catches.
Well, I would agree that Angleton and Bissell are not going to let that happen because they want to bury it and for the report, for the Warren Commission report. Agreed. And I say that in the piece is we still don't know if McDuff did interrogate him, but we do know McDuff did do the report for Sullivan. Sullivan was the key guy who he used to work for at Division 5, Washington Field. He then goes over, McDuff goes over to JCS, and he is the guy who gives the report from JCS, Joint Chiefs of Staff, over to Sullivan about two individuals, Ruby and Oswald. It's going to be because of Bay of Pigs, right? But we don't have proof of that yet. But I'm just saying that put yourself. I love doing this. Put yourself in Hoover's shoes. Okay, you have a pilot.
You want the pumps or the high heels?
No, neither. Now that you say that, but we know he receives a memo on June 3rd, 1960. You can Google it. That this guy wants to come back to the United States. This guy named Oswald, and this is the guy that Gary Powers says is the reason he got shot down. Oswald. So if I know that, and Gary Powers is telling everybody that in a courtroom in Russia, right? Is J. Edgar Hoover not going to know that? We know J. Edgar Hoover knew that because he wrote a memo to the State Department on June 3rd. Now, here's my key question. Who are you going to put on the case to look through? Who are you going to interface with the CIA? Because you know the McCone memo, you know that he's CIA. You can come over and look at our files anytime you want. That's what the McCone memo says, right? Who are you going to send over? Who is Hoover going to put on the case?
So is the question then, would Sullivan pass off that interrogation responsibility to his underling?
No, I'm going back to 1960. I'm going back to the Eisenhower. Who do you put on the case to check out Oswald? You have a guy who you've assigned. It's right in McDuff's thing. 68,000 files to consolidate all the different intelligence files into one dossier. There's one guy who's in charge of how many agents? 14 agents to review all the files.
Yeah, it was 20-some agents and secretaries. So,
but he heads that.
Yeah.
He heads the file review. And oh, by the way, that's the same job Hoover did as a librarian. And his first job at DOJ was file review, judicial review. So Hoover was also an attorney. So he would choose someone who was like him in meticulously going through and figuring out, give me everything you got on Oswald. I don't know enough about this character. And Hoover, if I'm reading a great book about him right now, was very concerned about imposters, identities being used of people that were to get these paperclip guys in, and also to get Russian scientists, the white Russians in, Rockefeller's white Russians. So I'm just putting out a few signposts. We keep digging, but I'm just putting out a few signposts.
George, I love it. I think you are on the track, and you've convinced me once again that follow the W.
Hey, I just look at the memo and say, well, who would you put on the case? At least it lets you ask the question and go back in time, and maybe we find the son of that guy. But something happened from that paper trail, and that's what I'm trying to do with the National Archives, is get to the next piece of paper, which is, here's the State Department's answer back to the Hoover. Here's Tom O'Loughlin's report. Of course, they say there's COVID now at the archives and we can't get a report, but we're on the case. We're going to keep digging.
Oh yeah, and like I say, I mean, there's stuff out there that's in the public. You know, it's already released, but we don't know about it. So that's why I think to continue to pick up the leads that are in the Orange Notebook and just get on the Google and find out what you can find to follow it up. It's how I got so far. And one of the things that still fascinates me is Donald Blackburn. Sometimes it's Donald D. Blackburn, and sometimes it's Donald C. Blackburn. I'm not sure which one, but he was the general that was in charge of the Sante raid and had also been in charge of a guerrilla group in the Philippines that stayed behind when Guadalcanal happened, and the Death March, the Bataan Death March. Well, he was among a small group that had escaped into the mountains of I think it was Luzon. Yeah, it was Luzon, and he organized this group called Blackburn's Headhunters, and these guys were active. Like they had like 20,000 members. And they were very, very active in the underground of the Philippines. So it's when my dad is involved in the planning of the Leyte Gulf operations, and I just think that there's probably some connection between Blackburn and my dad from World War II that made them able to work together at Saxa, 20-some years later.
Have you read Lieutenant Ramsey's War, John? Have you heard of that book?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
Okay, fantastic book. Very much related to what you're talking about in the underground Philippine resistance. Lieutenant Ramsey was one of the few soldiers who not only stayed behind or basically was left behind in the Philippines, but also actively participated in the resistance and survived the war as well. Really, really great book. Highly recommended about the Philippine resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And for all those who don't believe I kept the orange book,
Yeah.
there it is. That's me in New York in 2017 with the orange book. There it is. And so I did a little video about McDuff today, just talking about that there it is, in 2017. So
That's the same orange binder that was on the kitchen table this morning.
It might have been a new one since then. But,
Okay.
But what I'm saying is bring your orange books. Carol McIntosh just told me she's coming to the McDuff charrette to rebuild and to dig more. We're going to dig more into this. And Tara and Dave is coming. We've got Mark Buckley coming. Got a lot of folks already committed to coming. Now it's going to be work. It's going to be hard work. Addy, you don't get a chance to breathe, right? I mean, a little bit.
How many rooms you got left?
We're getting close to full, but we always like a Tim Spencer or a Wes or anyone who wants to come to the island and get us
Tim
another.
Spencer can get paid for coming just to bring that bus, right?
Yeah, that would be awesome if Tim would come down.
The urban assault vehicle.
We don't want there to be a limitation. We're going to be going to Gettysburg in 2 days to meet folks. Well, you're going to Atlanta first, but then we're coming back and taking you to Gettysburg.
Yes, sir.
As sort of a warm-up. But we definitely want to shoot. I mean, God, Peter Duke's camera is so good. And I botched it, editing it. I mean, I did a little clip. We want to reshoot everybody because it was so good. The camera was so good. And your sound, John, was so good with these microphones. You did such a great job with the mixer board and everything. And I screwed it up. I blew it. So I want to reshoot it. So bring your speaking voices.
George is probably fine.
Well, I shot a little 2-minute thing, but we
think
need
you're
to
right,
do
John.
the real 10-minute, beautiful Peter Duke stuff. And I'm sure he's rolling over in his, in his bed thinking, oh my God, I can't sleep with how he chopped my great stuff up. But anyway, there you go.
Post-production is an art.
Yes.
And you'll notice that I don't do any post-production. I've made a few tries at it, and I realize that it's something that's like photography or playing the violin or something. It's not simple that you just open up the program and make it look the way you want it to. There's a lot of detailed work, and it's kind of like boy, I wish somebody would do this for me. But until then, guys, you're stuck with me live. I'm just producing as much content as I possibly can, and warts and all, it's coming right at you. I apologize in advance for the numerous mistakes, but my goodness, to get the content out there is my desire. I want people to get up to speed as to what the real story is, so that we can help other people understand it and stop shouting at each other, but just to say, look at the facts. Here are the facts. And gosh, we can win this thing if we stick to the truth, if we stick to our consciences, not try to fool anybody, and resist the temptation to call somebody else, stupid, or, because, hey, we've all been fooled. We've all been subjected to a lifelong psyop. We've all, to some degree, got PTSD from it. And there's not any point in just shouting at somebody, telling you, calling them, whatever. Be gentle with each other, learn the truth, be able to, what George is so good at is explaining things without pulling a TV news announcer big deal, like, you can peacefully, calmly accept the most extraordinary things, if they're presented in a calm and an acceptable fashion to your mind. And so, I don't know. Shut up, John.
No, I
was great,
love
John.
it. Yeah. Well, there is this idea of rebroadcasting, because we do have this 800 gigabytes of stuff, and it's all great. And what I would see is somebody go through and just take out the air. And every broadcast has air, when you're first getting your people all in the room, and then you take breaks and so forth. But just take the air out of the readings. And then the easiest thing to do is, while broadcasting and while you have a chat, also to be annotating. It's much easier to do that than it is to go back later in post-production and edit. It's about 10 times harder to go back later and edit.
Yep.
If you could just lay it in and have somebody just Googling as you go, and have 2 or 3 moderators that you had as sources, and then just pop them in as you go, that's the way to do it. What we're going to try to do this time around is play some of those here during the charrette, and then you have a couple of sources on a mixer type board, but a StreamYard type of thing. You just pop them in as people come up with good stuff.
Yeah.
That way we're broadcasting. I mean, we might just do it like marathons.
Yeah, I've actually done both ways, George. So I've experienced doing both, and that's what I was doing earlier this year for my COVID roundtables. I was doing was I would just tell all the guests to send me all their documents. I would get my own documents and then bring them up as we went through those topics. And then likewise, I've also done the post-production editing and annotation as well, and it's extremely time-consuming. And despite that, I really do enjoy video editing. But Shrimpsu and I were actually lamenting about this in terms of, how do you want to spend your time? Do you want to spend your time editing for 2 days for a video that you may love, you may feel very proud of, but YouTube is going to demonetize like that? And in the meantime, you could have done 2 McDuff shows or 3 McDuff shows or a couple George Webb interviews.
Well, if we shorten the McDuffs to, and I'm sorry, John, we're getting into planning, but if we could get the book reading, let's say it's 45 minutes, we take the air out of it and get to 30 minutes, then we play it, and then we have 3 or 4 sources and moderators of people feeding you, and then you're just picking rather than having to search and pick, and then you just do the overlays. It's not really that important that you see the speaker.
Feeding you graphic images.
Yes.
There, just to make clear, because I was like...
Yeah, feeding you graphic images. Okay. And that way, most of the book is graphic images rather than watching you read. Yeah.
This is what I've been hoping all along, really, was that I'm going to do the best I can in reading this material and dropping my comments. And then maybe someday we can go back and add some graphics, because pictures of the people we talk about, scenes, scenes from the Sante raid, things like that I have tried to put in, but I find that well, there's just not enough hours in the day to
Right.
to be fully prepared all by yourself.
Yeah, and that's what we were thinking is take advantage of this opportunity for your channel getting wiped out to rebroadcast it, but give you a value add while we're rebroadcasting and let
I'm willing to do that.
Addy
Yeah.
run the board and maybe we could knock out the whole like secret team in like 6 hours.
You could, yeah.
Just knock it out and just go from beginning to end. And some people would just sit there and watch the whole thing because it's incredible, right? Just
Yeah.
like, oh my God. Plus the feed, the graphics feed is what I would be like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Yeah, we're going to have to, look into things like, well, we'll put up a big sign at the beginning that's, we have taken these images without checking for the copyright because we believe it's fair use as educational material. And if you would like us to take it down, here's, contact our,
Yeah, if you look at
Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe
Yeah,
Incorporated.
Well, and what Peter was saying is, if you show the website that it came from, and
Yeah.
you show where it came from, and you watermark where everything came from,
Uh-huh.
most people are like, "Great,
Yeah, yeah.
you just promoted my site." But if somebody wants to say no, take it down, then we'll just edit it out later on. So
Well, it sounds like a good few days of hard work and maybe a little bit of fun after the day's work.
oh, last thing, Ireland,
Ireland?
Ireland,
Ireland.
Ireland in the spring. We got
Oh my,
Assange?
I'd love to go, huh?
Yeah, Assange. So he's in Belmarsh prison in London right now, and you have a couple of contacts over there in Ireland.
Yeah, I do. One of my biggest supporters is there. I won't say her name just because I don't want to embarrass her. But yeah, she's actually never left Ireland, never left the country. Great accent. I love talking to her on the phone. And yeah, on top of that, I got supporters in the UK as well. So I think it'd be great. I don't know if we could get a layover at in London to head to the Old Bailey for a few minutes for a show. I think that would be cool. But I have been covering the Assange trial, the Assange case over this year. I haven't been doing that recently because election-related violence has taken precedence over that over the last couple weeks, in the election in general, really. But that Judge Vanessa Barretzer is her name, will be making that decision later this month. And I'm definitely going to follow up on that. And George and I were also talking about just the development in the Epstein saga, what with Ghislaine Maxwell getting her bail rejected for the second time as well. But Ireland, I'm all up for. I've never been to Ireland. I've been to
I haven't
Reykjavik in Iceland, but just the airport. So I think that's.
I think you
close as
guys
I've
are going to
gotten.
need a tour guide.
Yeah, well, we didn't tell you what this is for. It's a McDuff trip. It's a McDuff to go to search your family roots.
Oh,
You think you might be there?
I think so. I have a few leads.
So anyway, yeah.
Oh, can I plug?
I just hope they let us go. This COVID thing is making all of our plans. It's depressing, George.
Yeah.
So we got to figure out a way though to get past this thing.
But it's okay to bring Assange here with the trial this month for extradition. COVID's not gonna stop that, right? That's how the Justice Department works, right? So we might see Assange here in prison in Virginia before we get a chance to go to Ireland.
Yeah, Assange not getting winter clothes. His family sent him, and he's in lockdown, I think 23 and a half hours a day. He might get a 15-minute break. So really a psychological number they're doing on him over there at the HMP Belmarsh, which holds the most violent men in London.
Yeah.
But could we just do a plug of the McLaughlin blog? You might have talked about that before, but just a great blog post that I think John wrote about his dad. They have this.
O'Loughlin.
O'Loughlin. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
O'Loughlin, but with the Irish spelling.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a WordPress blog site that was created by some of my kin. My fellow O'Loughlins, one of them in County Clare, Ireland, and the other one in Australia. And these two guys have written a beautiful blog page. It's apostrophe LOCHLAINN at WordPress.com, I think. And yeah, there's an article that they put together when I told them about our 100th birthday celebration. And so Brendan asked me, could they write about that in the magazine? And so that's the article that came out of that, has pictures of my dad and the USS Nashville. And I had a wonderful exchange with Brendan O'Loughlin of Australia. He was a air marshal, which is like the super general, like the British style of general. Air Marshal in the Australian Air Force, retired, of course, now. But he had some a picture of some wooden ships that were used for silhouette purposes to teach the Australians how to recognize ships. Mm-hmm. And one of the ships that was there, believe it or not, was the USS Nashville, among this little small collection of wooden, dummy ships so that you could learn the silhouettes.
Sure.
In wartime. And so a friend of his had that and showed that to me. I showed him my pictures of the USS Nashville docked there in Woolloomooloo Harbor at Sydney. So anyway, fascinating to connect with those guys again, and absolutely exciting idea. I just hope we can do it.
Yeah. Well, it may be Bloomsday in June if we can't do earlier than that, but let's hope. John, great show, and thanks for letting Addy sit in.
Thank you, John.
Oh, are you kidding me? You're always welcome here at McDuff Channel, and George Webb. My goodness, you guys make time for me, and I'm very pleased to have you.
Okay. Well, thank you, John.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Everybody have a great afternoon.